Welcome to a Nitpicking Nerds bonus video! And today we're going to help you solve a problem that every Commander player is faced with.
When you're deck building, we are going to help you cut down to just 100 cards.
I'm your host, Beezy.
I'm your host, Beezy, and that makes us the Nitpicking Nerds. Haven't heard of this channel? You're hearing of it right now, and we're giving you awesome advice. So if you want to subscribe, that'd be great. You can chat with us and all our fans in the Discord, which is free. And you can be a patron, and you get even less free, more cool stuff.
Yep. And that's about it, because now we're hopping into this video. Seriously, cutting a deck down to 100 cards is so hard. I have had so many decks where I just I throw a list together. It's like, I have 150 cards. Holy crap.
I would say I'm even worse. It takes me like 5 days to build a deck.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Because I don't ever get a list and go, all right, I can work on getting these cards or proxy it up until I have the perfect 100 that I'm like, okay, this looks perfect on paper.
Yeah, what I usually do is I usually go 130 to 150 and then I start cutting from there. But we're going to help you. We're going to help you. We're going to show you what we do, and we're just going to give you some general advice on best ways to cut. So we'll start at number one. The best thing is to know your game plan. Be very sure that you know what this deck wants to do. If you build, let's just, for example, I just built the new Omnath, Locust of Creation. He is a Landfall deck. That is the plan for the deck. I don't have any sub-themes. So, like, if there's cards that are synergetic with, let's just say for random counters, I'm not going to worry about those cards. I'm going to cut those cards right away. Those are the easiest cuts. That's an oversimplification of what I'm saying, but there is going to be cards like that. You're going to look at your deck and be like, well, what does this actually do for my game plan? It's just an overall good thing. Actually, a great example would be like a Creative Behemoth in this deck. It's perfect. If I look at my Landfall deck and I go, Creative Behemoth's near, well, that doesn't make any sense. It's a great win con, great in most decks it's in, not this one.
Yeah, and you can even take it further. Our plan is to eventually just sort of combo off with like Song of Creation for that deck. So if you have like Retreat to Kazandu, which is Landfall, put a counter on something or gain 2 life, it doesn't do anything that we want to actually do to forward our game plan, and it's just this random landfall thing, so we can just cut it.
Yeah, exactly. You have to know that just because the card says landfall, it doesn't mean it fits your game plan.
Yes.
Just because you can trigger it 3 times, on that being a 7/7, not relevant for what that deck is trying to do.
So it's two-parter. You go, what's my main theme? All right, landfall in this case, and then how am I going to win? Okay, well, we're comboing off with putting a million lands in play like this, so you can take you get a big pile of landfall cards, and then you can cut them down significantly when you go, all right, what actually helps me?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's so many different things like that. If you're playing a counters deck, actually, this is from our roast video. We were mostly joking, but our patron or supporter, Michael, he had a Marith deck, and he didn't pick one of the lanes. So his deck was everywhere. And it's like he was down to 100 already, but if he was at 120 cards, the easiest thing to do would be like, well, I can't do counters, tokens, and what was the other one?
It's like a life gain thing, like damage, like him dealing damage and gaining life.
Yeah,
like cut one of those at least.
It's like you have to cut down on plans. You can't do, if you try and do what it's the saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah, exactly. I know that saying is actually longer. That's half the saying, and then like the other half of the saying goes against it. But we're just using the one that works for us.
No, we're using the full thing. That's the full saying. The saying that you hear is jack of all trades. That's the small part. Jack of all trades, master of none is the full saying.
I'll double check. One of us is wrong. So number 2, redundancy of you don't want the same effect over and over and over and over and over and over. There's a critical mass of when, let's say, token creation or +1/+1 counters is at its peak, and then if you have 50 cards that do this thing, you are not going to get a high impact.
I think a great example of this that just came out recently is Enchantresses. They've been coming out with more and more Enchantresses that draw as you play an enchantment. So there's just too many now. And if you're in all the colors that can get all of them, which is I think Bant or green-white maybe, if you're in those color combinations, there's too many. There's like somewhere between like 9 and 12. There's a lot.
There's really a lot.
And it's too many. You can't just throw that many in a deck and just expect the deck to be good, because it's too much of the same thing. You're going to end up with hands where you draw 3 of them and no enchantments, and you're going to be like, oh, well, this is no good.
Yeah, where if you have 10 Mesa Enchantresses and 10 Verduran Enchantresses, well, where are your enchantments going?
Exactly.
You got to cut those cards down and figure out how often you're going to need one. Maybe do some math. Figure out I want to draw 1 in every opening hand. All right, play that number. You can look this stuff up online. There's, I think it's the hypergeometric magic calculator. You just plug that into Google and find out your stuff.
Now I want to be clear that redundancy is good. You do want redundancy in your deck. You absolutely do, but you have to be careful not to do it too much. A good example of like this is kind of a different sort of redundancy is when you start piling up win cons. If your deck just has like say like you have Crater Behemoth and what's the three that guy that gives 3/3 from Game Night and
Earthsacred Giant,
and you have
End-Raze Forerunner.
End-Raze Forerunners. And there's other versions of that. And you have the guy who emerges. You have all those in your deck. You definitely don't need all those. And it's too redundant. It's like at that point you have to realize, okay, this is how I want to win the game, but I don't need all of them because what are you going to do when you draw 2 of them? And you're just like, well, this kind of stinks.
Yeah, play 1 and probably win or kill somebody. Where's the second one doing? Rotting in your hand?
Yeah.
Making it harder to get to the point where you cast the first one?
Yeah, exactly. Next, number 3. Keep a reasonable curve.
Please.
You gotta, yes. I mean, curve is so important, and like there's many different a reasonable curve for play groups is much different because like a reasonable curve and like more of our play group is something in below 4 and above 3. Usually that's reasonable for our play group, but if you're playing in a slower meta, 4 to 5 might be reasonable. But you want to make sure you are staying reasonable because if you're in a 4 to 5 meta, which is a higher meta,
you mean like out of 10?
No. I'm talking
power levels like mana. I don't know.
No, mana curve. I'm saying like for our
4 to 5 what?
4 to 5 for your mana curve average CMC.
Average CMC. I think is what we missed.
Sorry, average CMC of like I said, somewhere between 3 and 4 is usually good for our group.
Oh.
And then if someone's playing average CMC 4 to 5, you still have to be careful because now if you're playing like a 6 to 7, you're going to be so much slower.
Oh yeah, and you're gonna get brutalized. So when you have this list of like 150 cards, like what can I ever cut? Well, laid out based on curve. If you have, like I mentioned in another video, I will have 63 drops. You can't have 63 drops in your deck. So looking at that, you're like, okay, I need to get down to somewhere around like 20 is a lot of 3 drops. So I need to get way down from this large pile because more likely than not, if you just throw a stack of 200 cards together, they're going to clump up at random CMCs are just going to be huge because you're not thinking about it. You're just putting stuff together. So you're going to find at least all the stragglers where you're like, oh, it's competing with this and this and this. This is competing with all these 2-mana rocks. I just don't need Felwar Stone in my deck.
Yeah, exactly. Cutting expensive cards is way more important too because if you should start at the top of your curve. That's where I would look first. If you're like, it's just so much easier. Like if I just say, okay, let's just look at 5 and up. That means these like 80 cards are off the table or however many. It's probably a lot more.
Split it up.
Yeah, you split it up and you just say, okay, now I can really focus on these cards and see what needs to be cut out of here. And like maybe there's not enough cuts there, but it's such a good place to start because it's on a lower average CMC deck just functions faster and better than a higher CMC deck.
I know what you're saying. If you have a 2-drop and a 6-drop and you're not sure which one to cut, tiebreaker, cut the 6-drop.
Exactly. It's an easy tiebreaker like that.
Yeah, I just went over a couple of my decks. I picked 5 of them that are more casual, less cutthroat. So the average number of 4-drops of those 5 decks that I had was 9.4. And the average number of 5-drops for those decks was 3.4. I don't like playing 5-drops, apparently.
Apparently, BZ just cuts it off at 5 drops. He plays lower end decks. That is how BZ plays. So.
Yeah, no matter what power level I build, I love 1, 2, 3, 4. And I don't like 5 and up. 5 and up just feels so clunky to me, even if I'm playing casual jank.
Yeah. Something to consider too is when you're making those final cuts and you're thinking, I really want to play all this high end stuff. EDH is like, I really like them all. But if you do cut some more high end stuff, you get to play more cards because you get to cut your lands down. And like cutting lands helps us get to a better deck sometimes. Because like we'll start out, like usually I start out with like 40 lands and I cut from there. I'll be like, okay, I'll purposely put too many lands in because when I'm making cuts, I'll see what the average CMC is and see where I land in lands. And usually I'm able to play like 34 to 36 and feel comfortable.
Okay, yeah. My starting point is 35.
Okay.
We have a very low starting point and ending point, depending on where our decks end up, to like every other content creator I've ever seen. They're like 37, 38 plus, 40 minimum. It's like, whoa, we don't do that. We lower our curve a little bit, and then it literally lets us play more cool cards where we're like, this is my 101st, 102nd, 103rd card. But because I was disciplined when making my curve, I cut Grave Titan and Steel Hellkite. I get to play these cool 3 and 4 drops.
I think one of the things that people worry about a lot in EDH is the trouble of if you, because we play on the lower end. I think we play on an end of the lands where it's reasonable, but there will be screws sometimes. That people try to avoid that completely because they never want to basically sit up a game of EDH. But then flood happens more often, and like maybe you stayed in the game of EDH, but you just played lands.
Or if you look at it from hindsight, you never had a chance because you flooded.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think we really get screwed that often. I've missed a couple, but I remember missing land drops, obviously.
Yeah,
but it's really not as bad as I think people make it seem.
Yeah, you miss more land drops than the average person, I would say.
I will say though, but I think it hurts me less.
Maybe
because my deck is lower cost. Where like, oh, I topped out at 10 lands and I can't draw any more. Okay, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, that might be completely fair, but I'm just saying I do think you, on average, from like playing so many games with you do get screwed more than the average person.
That's probably true. And the last one is a little thing that I like to do. I think it's number 5. It's draft your deck. So it's kind of hard to explain, but I have this notebook where I like making cuts on paper and having a tapped out list on the internet with the big list. Because once you cut something, it's kind of annoying, at least for me, that I can't see where it went. Mm-hmm. So like, oh, I cut this card. I hope I remember it because if I ever come back to it, I'm going to need to remember it. So I literally just write down like all 100 things and then I'm like, okay, I have probably 35 lands. We can add or cut later. But 35 is a baseline for me. All right, I got to pick 64 of these. So then I just go, all right, what's the most important card? Or I go by category, like how many ramps do I want? 8, 9, okay. How many card draw? 7, 8, okay. And then core synergies with the commander. And then it's like, okay, you just need to literally rank what is most important to your deck, what synergizes the best, just like 1 to 64. And then if you're comfortable with those cards, lay them out, see how it looks. Because you have to prioritize. I like starting from best to worst instead of the thinking is, all right, what's my worst card? It's like, it's so much harder to figure out what your worst card is.
So something, we're not going to talk about this specifically in this video because it's just another topic. Come up with numbers. That'll help you a lot. If you figure out how many ramp spells you want in the deck, then you know that any other number of ramp spells, you can start cutting the worst of those. So it's like if you say you want 8 ramp spells in your deck, that's the number you decide on, and you look and there's 12. Now you have 4 easy cuts.
Yeah, but don't look at your Cultivate Nature's Lore, Rampant Growth, Farseek and say, all right, which is the worst one? You go, I found it much easier to go, which is the best, and then you go, all right, okay, and then I don't feel bad when I'm like, okay, these are not the best. I just figured out what is. I don't have any mental blockage with that. Get rid of the rest of them.
Oh God, ramp spells are, with 3 visits reprint coming.
Ooh.
Oh my goodness, it's so exciting for EDH.
It's what I call it, the death knell for Cultivate.
It really it's so good. Oh God, Nature's Lore is such a phenomenal card, and getting another copy of it in your EDH deck is gonna feel great.
Yeah, we got, what do we have? Nature's Lore, 3 visits, Skyshroud Claim, like right at the top, and then after that is like a huge drop.
I think the closest one for me is Farseek.
Up to because it can get like fixing.
Yeah, exactly. Because it can get you dual lands. So I think Farseek's like probably my next one.
Yeah, we don't even play that card.
Yeah, I play it sometimes, some decks.
Yeah, all right, but that's just, we can totally do a different land video. Like, oh, why do we start at 35 lands?
Yeah.
Why do some of our decks have 32 lands in it?
But basically, so just a quick little
recap.
A quick little recap. Know your game plan, understand your game plan, cut cards that are far from your game plan. Like another example, if you're playing, let's just say, give me a burn type deck. You want to do
Torbran.
You want to play Torbran. Maybe cut out the big giant red dragon that doesn't do anything. It's like,
oh yeah, where you just have, I don't know, you have Lathliss in your deck for some reason.
Yeah, exactly. There's just Lathliss in your deck. It's like, well, just cut that out. That's an easy cut. Themes, so important to stick to themes. When cutting is so much easier when you know what your deck wants to do.
Yeah, I thinking of my Skullbriar deck. All right, it's +1/+1 counters, and then there's a sub theme of like getting Skullbriar out of the graveyard because I can send them there to make commander attacks better. Anything that's not that, goodbye.
It's so funny because like you would look at BZ's Marchesa deck and say there is no theme. No, the theme is playing a controlling game and getting incidental value out of my permanents while getting rid of their permanents.
And leverage the monarchy.
Exactly.
So if something is this, there's no cards that are like, all right, this card needs to win by itself. It's all working together. So I'm not going to play like Rise of the Dark Realms. There's no Torment of Hailfire.
Yeah, that's why you originally had that in there, but you're like, that doesn't fit the game plan.
Right.
I'm not just trying to do big X spell. It's like I can do big X spell, but that doesn't fit the game plan.
What is the point of controlling the board if you're just playing a big X spell? Then just play spam Cabal Coffers and Tutor for, which is its own game plan. But I don't want that.
Yeah, but that's not what the game. Exactly. Keep those in your deck if you're going for that plan. That's fine. But in the case of BC's deck, that's not at all what he was doing.
Right. So it was a mental lapse. I just should have cut those. And then redundancy. You want a lot of the thing you're trying to do, of course. You don't want too many so that you don't have room for like card draw and ramp.
Yep. Keep reasonable curve. Simple. I mean, just don't go crazy. Don't put too many high drops. And remember, if you cut down and you have a reasonable curve, that will allow you to cut lands.
Yes, and if you want to do the calculation of like average CMC, don't let like Tapped Out do it for you, because you got like Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise and Blasphemous Act. They all cost like 2, 3, or 4 mana. So just do it. Take the extra second and just figure out the average CMC yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Just do the mental, not the mental math, because that's a hard mental math.
Yeah, whoa, jeez.
I mean, actually, it's hard mental math, but on paper you could really easily.
I mean, by paper I mean a calculator.
Yeah, I mean, do it on a calculator. It's way easier and it'll take you less time. But most people can just do that.
Yeah, and then something I recommend, try it out. Besides cutting those 5 drops down, try out figuring out the best cards and go from the best to the worst, so that when you get down to this, you know which cards are the top 30 in your deck, but you don't know what cards are the bottom 70. So once you get to a point, you just go, oh, I have to stop here. So if I don't have anything I want to fit, I can jostle these things. Otherwise, hard cut.
Yeah, once you start, because if you example, you have Demonic Tutor in your deck. You go, well, obviously, I put it in here for a reason. I have Demonic Tutor. I want to play Demonic Tutor. This is a black deck. That's like number one. It's not getting cut. There's no reason to cut that card ever. It doesn't there's no sense in it unless you're looking to lower your power level, which is not what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it definitely helps declutter my mind when I'm just staring at all this stuff and I have no idea what to think about it. But that's the video.
Yeah. Special shout outs to all of our patrons. We love you all as much as we can without making you uncomfortable. You guys are so awesome. It's been like really a little overwhelming, like the response to our apple pie project. And just the subs we've gotten from it. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. We are rolling the snowball down the hill. We are not going to stop until we are dead.
That's probably not true.
We're not going to stop. We could see ourselves being the biggest Magic channel. That's not out of the question.
Boom. We're coming for you, Command Zone.
Yeah, they don't make bonus content.
Yeah, they don't make bonus content
all the time.
Yeah, all they do is make videos all the time, consistently great quality. Who do you think are better than us?
Jeez. Yeah. Okay. Joking aside, we're not going to stop making Magic content anytime soon. So if you want to help us, there's a million ways to do it. There's a TCG player link in the description. You can click on it and buy stuff, and you get a kickback for us on the order.
Yeah, and we have merch. I'm wearing one of the merch shirts right now.
We're working on new merch.
We are working on new merch, but these shirts are. I always think that because I'm right next to it, then it doesn't look good. When I watch the video. These shirts look really good.
Really?
Yes, they look like it's when you're right up against it, it's like, this is blurry. It's so blurry.
But they might, this is a reasonable distance to be, so that it might be like, oh, it's just fine.
It just looks good. I said that the other day, I'm like, oh, my shirt's blurry. Michael's like, it looks good. What are you talking about?
Oh, maybe we're just super nitpicking.
I think we are nitpicking it. But we are going to work on getting new ones because we do want it to be the best possible product for our patrons.
That being said, if you don't care, hey,
buy our shirts.
Yeah, because there's not going to be any for probably a fair bit. Anyway, we're just rambling. So how about a tidbit?
Tidbit about our life. I am doing a little bit of cutting down on Twitch streaming because I really want to focus on the channel, especially with this big buff burst we got.
Gotta take advantage.
I want to try and do at least 2 hours of streaming a day, but I also haven't been enjoying streaming Magic as much. It feels like it's begun to feel like a chore more than fun. It's like I know it's like streaming is not supposed to just be super fun, but it's like I don't know. Sometimes I don't want to play Zendikar Draft. Sometimes I like the bad luck that comes along with it. I don't know how Ben Stark does it. I don't know how he sits there and grinds even when he's having the worst days ever. It's like, oh, I just want to I just quit today. I'm just like, we're 1-5. I'm done. I'm just done.
Oh yeah, Ben Stark will just be like 0-3, 1-3, 3-3. He's like, we can do another draft.
More power to you, Ben Stark, because I can't do it. I can't do it.
Mental fortitude on that man is very high. I'll say there's a bug in the room somewhere.
Yeah, it's been over.
It's on the light and it's really annoying. So yeah. if you go check out our Patreon, we will kill the bug. Only then.
Yeah. If you love bugs, we will let it outside if you go check out our Patreon.
It depends on the tier you join.
It depends. Whatever our next patron decides what happens to the bug.
Yeah, we're not going to do anything to it. This room is closed. It can't get out. But you got to do it before it
Could
dies.
easily get out. Like you can't go under the door.
You're ruining the immersion. We're done.
We're done. Peace out. Well, hey, you don't do that until I say it. Peace out, Tribe Scout.